Was Bob the good guy?
I mean, what is there to say about Twin Peaks?
Everything that could be said about Twin Peaks has been said and will be said because Twin Peaks has a lot to say about it. And also, it doesn't have a lot to say. It's very simple, very clean, but gives a lot for interpretation. If anything, the show is a Rorschach test. Whatever you want it to be is what it is. And whatever it wants out of you is what you will become. And personally, I think that's intentional. Girl gets murdered, detective solves murder. It's really that simple. It doesn't need to be more, it doesn't need to be any less. It's what fills the gaps, is how it becomes what it is. It is something that is part of your subconscious because we all fear that death. We all want to explore and find that mystery. And the mystery is, what do you think about yourself? Are you smart? Are you dumb? Do you just watch shows to project your own insecurities onto these characters so you can watch them overcome or suffer from those mistakes? For me, I think Twin Peaks is about television, about the medium itself. It's about the consumption of television and how it affects us as a person. How fiction affects reality and how reality affects fiction. They're not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're intertwined. Just because these characters in of themselves aren't real, doesn't mean the ideas and meanings that they represent aren't. In fact, they represent the purest form of those concepts, delivered deliciously fresh through the means of television. Like, for instance, the iconic TV dinner. Ready-made, wrapped in plastic, good for 30 years or so. Just like Laura Palmer. Yes, I am comparing the microwavable TV dinner to Laura Palmer. Because like her, wrapped in plastic, through her suffering and pain, there is joy and entertainment brought from it. Much like how the Logites eat their gammon zorba. Ain't that funny? Without Laura Palmer's death, there would be no Twin Peaks. The show simply wouldn't happen. Without Laura Palmer's death, there would be no wacky characters, funny foods, funny things to say, funny things to see. There would be none of that. And who can we blame for that? Well, of course, Bob. Robertson. Bobbington. Barbarino. That guy. Killer Bob. Without him, there would be no Twin Peaks. There would be no entertainment. There would be no thing to consume, no media to enjoy. Just like a microwavable dinner. Who cooked it? Some soulless concept of a company. Some large multimedia group taking these cows and corns and potatoes and whatnot and crushing them together into a thinly defined paste for you to enjoy. And we eat it up. We enjoy it because it's delicious and yummy and cheap and convenient. And damn it, when I watch my Twin Peaks, I best have my TV dinner. Cause that shit yummy, yo. That shit be super yummy. Be rumbling my tummy. And just like you, the citizens of Twin Peaks eat up Laura Palmer's death. Without her dying, there would be no wacky scenarios to indulge. They need her to die in order to live, in order to exist both on a metaphysical, fictional level and on a cultural, personal level. Through Laura Palmer's death, there is creation. There is a necessity for that creation. A need to bring new life through the suffering of one little girl. And, like I said, thank Bob. Bob is a necessary evil. He is the glue. He is the jar jar, the key to all of this. Without him, there would be no entertainment. He is needed. Bob, for me at least, represents the violence in movies and sex on TV. The same kind David Lynch hates, but also the same kind he needed to make Twin Peaks. Without those violence in movies and sex on TV,
Twin Peaks as we know it would not exist whatsoever.
without all these nasty, crude, just disgusting things being able to be shown on television, then Twin Peaks as a show could not have existed. The censors would not allow it if it was going against Andy Griffith's show and Ding Dong House. Simply not possible. Without all these crude, yucky, violent, nasty things, the audience would not be able to enjoy such experimental and mature work, because without the bad, without destruction, there is nothing to build on. Without a void, there's nothing to fill it with. You can't paint on a rainbow canvas. I mean, you can, but why would you? Without Bob, and then Bob, I mean all the nasty, countercultural, edgy things that came out of the 60s, post-bomb, post-war, there would be no rebuilding, there would be no reconstruction that uses the crudeness and the violence and maturity brought on by that post-bomb, post-war mentality to make something beautiful. Without destruction, there is no creation. And without creation, there is no destruction. We live in a world that's pre-made, pre-packaged, like a TV dinner, wrapped in the plastic of the atmosphere, just ready to be regurgitated. What needs to be done is a destruction, to break apart that routine, that schedule, that pre-processed crud, and to bring into something more palatable for the modern taste. But without that, there needs to be destruction. There needs to be suffering and pain. There needs to be something gross and yucky and unwanted for there to be a want to be created. There can't be a market without a desire. And that desire needs to come from somewhere. And that somewhere is Bob. Bob's mother, the experiment. I know what she represents. She represents what I said earlier, the beatniks, the hippies, all the crude, yucky, run in the mud, sex with animals, whatnot. All that violent, kooky, crazy darkness is where the light of Laura comes in. Without her being able to die by that hands, the sweet, beautiful age of film, the silent 1920s and the talkies and the musicals, all that wonderful, simple stuff being washed out by the countercultural nastiness of the late 50s, early 60s. There would be no Twin Peaks. Without society's standards being lowered by the darkness, there will be no one to bring it up to a higher level of taste. You need the poo-poo pee-pee in order to create flowers through fertilizer, through the nitrous. Just because we don't like it, and you probably shouldn't have it in your house or eat it, does not mean it cannot be used for something greater. In fact, it is an important cycle of life that thing happens, that waste, that decomposition. For without it, there would be no growth and development from that. It needs to be. There needs to be Bob. Bob is king, because without him, there would be no growth, there will be no recreation, there will be no beauty. Without death and destruction, there is no creation, there is no Twin Peaks. That does not mean to keep up with the nastiness or the yuckiness, but rather to overcome it. When you see that corruption, that softness inside of it is ready to come out, and you gotta grab it by the neck. But sometimes your worst enemy can be what seemingly is the softness. Laura Palmer's dad is Ted Turner, a guy with a soft, cuddly aesthetic. But deep down inside, he is corrupt. He is susceptible to the countercultural slop he claims to hate and despise. He, like any other multimedia conglomerate, presents himself as sweet, very natural, loving, fatherly, motherly, whatnot. But deep down inside, they're just as monstrous and disgusting as the countercultural crap they seem to hate. Because they're both of the same child. That post-war necessity. The void that needed to be refilled. But then again, comes Twin Peaks. From that fake softness, that fake edginess, comes maturity and beauty and love and humor. All that censorship that boiled over into a mass exploitation of the emotional psyche becomes art. So thank you, Bob. You're really nice, Bob. Thank you for killing Laura Palmer. Now I get to watch Twin Peaks, that funny little show about a dead little girl. Without Bob, where would I be? Where would I be without the funny show? Where would I be entertained? Without the countercultural movements of the 60s and 70s, where would there be a Reconstructionist era within the 80s and 90s? Without poo-poo pee-pee, where's the fertilizer for my plants and fungi? That's what I'm asking. But for me, I know the ugly, nasty bits and parts that get crammed to my TV dinner, but I'm still eating it because that's yummy. And I love me some yummy, yummy food in my tummy. Because who doesn't? Because without the post-war need for rationing and preserving, there would be no need for microwave food. No need at all. And now we got it, and now we have it. So enjoy your meal, and know what type of suffering and pain and chaos came in order to create such a beautiful little pre-packaged goodie. Sure, it's filled with salts and carbohydrates, but it sure does taste good, doesn't it? Very yummy. Very tasty. Thank you, Bob. We needed that. Thank you, Bob. The necessity of Bob is everywhere nowadays. So be grateful. It reminds me a lot about comedy. Comedy is rhythm plus timing plus a little bit of suffering plus the unexpected. Without suffering, there is no comedy. And God, He who sits on the throne of heaven, laughs. Because suffering is funny. I find it funny. Hopefully you do too.